Grief in the small things of everyday life. How do you do that when you are struggling with the intensity of grief? My name is Cristi Bundukamara, psychiatric nurse practitioner with over 20 years of clinical experience. But grief is my specialty because I have lost children. Yes, more than one. And this video is about how do you do everyday life without what we call spiraling. And I'm going to use the word spiraling over and over again because that's how it feels to me when something happens and I just go into this negative loop and it ruins my day, maybe just my mood for the moment. How do we catch ourselves? How do we actually function? I know many of you, especially those who have lost a child, really, really struggle, but you're trying. And so don't give up. We've got some videos on not giving up. But what do you do in those little moments when life is stressing you out? For example, somebody tried to cut me off or did cut me off the other day on the road. And I got so upset, kind of yelling and making gestures like I was going to do something about it. And that's not me. I know that road rage is about what's going on with me. It has nothing to do with the traffic and the person. Everybody's just trying to get to where they're going. My intellectual brain knows that. But in that moment, what happened? I spiraled. That moment reminded me or made me think that nobody cares about the pain that I'm going through. That including God, like it doesn't get easier just because you're going through this horrible thing. You still have to go through what everybody else has to go through. And, it took a minute. And I practiced that think, organize, and choose. And I thought through it. I knew where it was coming from. I had to make a choice. Like, I'm not that person. Take a deep breath. That woman has nothing to do with your life. She's just trying to get to where she's going. And so I made a choice to literally let it go. And it took me about 30, 60 seconds, right? And I think that's pretty good. But if you find yourself in that spiral, you got to learn how to stop it. Something a little closer to home. If you know my story, I've lost 3 children over the course of 15 years. My husband has a neurodegenerative condition. He can no longer help around the house. And my garage is broken. And I have a leaking toilet. And my refrigerator's broken. And I work full time and I'm on this mission and I want to find fun things to do, right? So all of these things, are just small, get somebody to fix the garage, get somebody to fix but when I start to think about it, even when I was saying it now, I started to well up a little bit and I start to spiral. I have nobody, I don't have anybody to help me around the house. I don't have a husband that can do those things. I don't have a partner anymore. And it gets me in this negative loop of, woe is me, those negative thoughts. And this is why we put things into categories in the Mentally Strong method. Because those things like that woman cutting me off or realizing my garage is broke, those are triggers that are creating an emotional response, but I have to control that emotional response. The triggers are not going to stop. Grief is in its own category because I have to take the time to feel that pain and to not allow it to seep into every other area of my life, which is very easy when you are struggling with intense grief, like losing a child. I'm not even at 1 year with the loss of my daughter, Maya. And so the intensity, I'm at about 8 months. It's really starting to come to the surface. And I'm having trouble, keeping those things in their categories, which means I need to take the time to go through what I call controlled grief. We also have categories for behaviors and choices. I had to make a choice at that moment when I wanted to, just continue and take my anger out on this complete stranger on the road. I had to make a decision because it's not about her. I have lots of anxiety about other decisions, for my husband or for my living situation in my home. And those things are in its own category. They're not really my grief. And lastly, and it happens to me a lot, my negative thoughts. Then my negative thoughts are my negative thoughts, and I do have control of them. And I have to remind myself that people do care about me. Many people don't know how to help or what to say when you've lost a child. And if you are listening and you've lost a child, you know the reality of that. But even in other grief or trauma, people that care about you don't necessarily know how to be helpful. So identify those people that care about you. Talk to them. Tell them how they can help you. And then we always go into personal vision. Why am I making these choices? I'm making these choices because I am committed to turning my pain into purpose, but also on a spiritual realm. Having lost children, I have to reconcile that with God. And I have a personal vision to have a spiritual awareness of our time on earth and what eternity looks like, and the connection between the here and now and our time and space and that spiritual eternity. So those are my personal visions. Those are why I'm learning to think, organize, and choose. That's why it's important that you have a personal vision so you know where you're trying to go with this. Yes, sometimes you have to sit in the pain, but most times you have to make choices to move in the direction that you want to go. I am sorry that you are grieving. I am grieving too. But we can do this. We are mentally strong, and I believe in you. If you got to the end of the video, you obviously enjoyed some of the content. I have a lot of free content out there. I am really trying to empower everyone to find their mental strength. So subscribe, get the actual notifications, and let's embrace this journey of mental strength. See you there.